Hi, and welcome to this presentation on your gut and your golden years, supporting digestive health as we age, brought to you by the Canadian Digestive Health Foundation. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Serena Benali. I'll be your host for today. I'm a registered dietitian and president of In Good Nutrition. I'm really excited to chat about all things digestive health today. So before we get started, some disclosures. So no relevant financial ties or competing interests are associated with this talk. Funded in part by Government of Canada's New Horizons for Seniors program. So today we're going to talk about all things digestive health as you enter your golden years, or as I also like to say, as you get wiser. Now, what changes happen and how can we preserve our gut for a healthy, long life? So we're going to talk about the connection between chronic disease, overall health, and then we're also going to talk about key strategies that you can take home today to improve your digestive health and sustain a healthy one. So before we get into everything, I want you to think of this one question as we're chatting today. Today, I'm here to educate, provide you with information, tips, and strategies, but the biggest reason I'm here today is for behavior change, to help you change and to really help you take the information that we're going to talk about today to help you change. So I want you to think about this question today as we're working through everything is, what is the one thing you can do today to have better digestive health? So again, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, different foods and things like that. And I want you to think about what is the one thing that you're going to take from our time together today and apply to your health. So why does gut health matter, right? I think it's so popular. We hear it a lot online now. Digestive health, gut microbiome, all these things. So it's very fascinating. Your digestive tract has trillions, yes, trillions of microorganisms living there, helping you maintain a healthy immune system, digest food, even produce some vitamins like vitamin K. So it's really interesting. Sometimes in health, we think that things aren't connected in our body, right? If we have a problem with the heart, we really kind of look at it isolated. However, with the digestive system and really any organ in the body, everything is interconnected. And so many things are connected by your digestive health, right? Metabolism, chronic disease risk, heart health, even cancer risk is associated with a not so healthy digestive health. And also too, healthy aging, right? We all want to make sure that we enjoy what I like to say, the back nine of life just as much as the front nine. So we want to make sure that we really enjoy our health and we have good health so that we can enjoy those years to the max. So I want us to zoom out before we zoom in to the digestive tract, the digestive system. So let's zoom out. You see this little picture here of this person eating some broccoli. So digestive system really starts in the mouth and goes all the way down to the large intestine, rectum, and elimination. So it really is that whole pipe there. And when we're zooming out, we also have what we call those accessory organs that do help with digestion, including breaking food down, of course, and things like liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So the overarching role of the digestive system is to chew, break down food, add enzymes, bile, absorb nutrients, and then eliminate waste. So we take all the goodness from the food that we eat and we eliminate what we don't need. So we're talking more about the gut. What we're typically referring to is more that pipe. So the stomach, the small intestines, the large intestine. So that's about 30 feet. So I like to say we all have some height to us, regardless of how tall we are, at 30 feet. And again, this is where we house the trillions of good bacteria in our body. And this is the main site of absorption, immune health. We're going to talk a little bit more about this shortly. So how does getting wiser affect our digestive system? So great thing, built-in resilience. Okay, digestive system really truly has a lot of reserve. So basic function is truly preserved or maintained in our older age. However, there's some changes that can happen, right? And sometimes if they compound and they kind of stack, then we can have some problems, right? So the stomach lining, that's something, high users of like ibuprofen, things like that can increase the risk of ulcers, nutrient absorption. So again, because of that thinner stomach lining, you're not getting much of the acids there that help intake of like B12, iron, calcium. And then also too, just things moving a little bit slower. Also, some other effects that happen is, enzymes, right? Sometimes we produce fewer of those as we get older. A very common one is lactose, right? A lot of people, drink a glass of milk well in their youth, and as they get a little bit older, it's a little bit more challenging. And then that little bit of slowing down of the muscles that contract and move things along, as you can see, kind of like brooms things along, can cause some constipation. It can also cause some heartburn, which is very common. And then again, that compounding effect, maybe a little less physical activity, medications, lack of hydration. So all these things kind of stack together that causes, most of those common impacts. So a lot of those things are things that we can manage through lifestyle. So we're going to get to those shortly, but these are the most common issues that occur. So constipation, as we talked about, slower gut transit is very common. And a big reason is that lower fiber intake, dehydration. So as we get wiser, our sensation for thirst actually dulls. So if we're not somebody who built a lifetime habit of just being someone who drinks a lot of water, you can be severely dehydrated. So, and then medications, things like that, less activity. Again, it's a compounding effect. For instance, like an iron supplement, you might be low iron, and then a lot of iron supplements cause constipation. So we're going to get into a little bit of medication supplements shortly. Heartburn. So as we get wiser to that valve that's on the top of the stomach that prevents, things from coming back up, weakens. So you can have a little bit of acid that comes up that causes a heartburn, that burning sensation. Diverticulosis or diverticulitis, it's a flare-up. This is something that we see a lot in our clinic. And the common pathway is that people will actually go to the emergency with severe pain. Like, oh my God, what's going on? They, at the emergency, they're like, oh, you have diverticulitis. They're like, what is this thing? I've never heard of this. So what can happen over a lifetime is that little pouches in the colon begin to form. And what happens is that food can get stuck in these, or they can get infected, and it causes severe pain. So this is kind of something that builds over a lifetime of constipation, and it's not something that's often seen until you're older, like usually 60 plus. And then, of course, the side effects of medication. I always advocate people, make sure that you always ask with your medications, like any side effects, even if it's a medication that you've been taking for a long time. Like, say, pharmacists are so helpful. Like, if you go to a grocery store, pop by and ask a few questions, they really are a wealth of knowledge. So the gut microbiome. So this is what we talk about when we're talking about the trillions of good bacteria that helps in digestion, making vitamins, and they also make sure that they, crowd out any germs that are there, and also build more of a robust immune system in doing so. I like to say, like, it's good for your immune system to be challenged to build more immunity. And then as we get wiser, sometimes there's just less diversity there. So we need to be really conscientious of how we add that adversity. Of course, we'll be talking about that shortly. And then there can also be that imbalance, right? There's some food, specifically fiber, that produces, when you eat it, some anti-inflammatory compounds. So we need to make sure that we include those. And then the immunity. Can you believe that 70 to 75% of your immunity resides in your gut? amazing, right? So that is where the beauty is too, in keeping that, right? Because we get a lot of people in their wiser years who often get sick, right? And it can be very serious sometimes. So we want to make sure that we have that good gut microbiome, so we have a good, robust immune system that's ready to take on anything. So, like I was kind of mentioning in the beginning, good health, or gut health, is truly intertwined with overall health, right? It's connected to disease. As you know, there's so much research to support that different kind of microbiomes are actually maybe more correlated to obesity or diabetes, cancer. A strong connection between gut and mood, chronic inflammation. So, as we're just mentioning, some of those fibers give you some of those anti-inflammatory compounds. Also, an imbalance of gut microbiome can actually cause or increase the risk of arthritis, heart disease, and dementia risk. So from that immune, the more balance you have, the more better you're able to fight off infection. And then, of course, nutrient absorption. So there's impacts there with B12, iron, and calcium are kind of the most common ones that build deficiencies because of that unbalanced gut there. So how does gut health really affect chronic disease? Is it really that connected? And oh my golly, is it? Heart health, right? Fiber helps the mic. I'm starting to talk about fibers. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be a theme here today. Fiber feeds the good bacteria, helps with cholesterol, lower that LDL cholesterol. You've been to the doctor, they tell you your LDL's creeping up, and they might call it your bad cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. So that soluble fiber helps slow that spike of blood sugar. And also too, the colon, a high fiber diet and that friendly bacteria really helps reduce that risk of colon cancer. And then brain and mood, right? There's that strong connection to mood. 90% of our serotonin, also known as the feel-good chemicals, actually produced in the gut. And we've all had that, that gut feeling or, that stress or things and having it impact our digestive health. So there's all that connection there. So again, like when we're talking about digestive health, we're not just talking about how our body takes in food, breaks it down, and has a bowel movement. It's so much more than that, right? It really is the core, the foundation of our physical health, our mental health, and also the prevention of many chronic diseases. So now we know why your gut matters. Now let's shift to what you can do. And we're going to talk about this in very digestible little pieces. I had to do that one. So fiber. So fiber is your gut's best friend. It's the person that you always want at the party, and the more the merrier. They're the best. So fiber helps keep you regular. It helps you feel fuller. It helps lower bad cholesterol. It helps slow that spike of blood sugar. It helps produce those short chain fatty acids that are anti-inflammatory. Fiber helps add more diversity to your gut microbiome. So fiber truly is the all-star of your digestive health. And there's so many areas that we can get good fiber. So fiber, I really just want to think of whole foods, right? Whole foods, very simple. Fruits, vegetables, phenomenal. Whole grains, legumes like lentils, chickpeas. One of my favorite things to do to get more legumes is every time I make meatballs, I do half ground meat, half lentils. Call it the little hybrid. No one even notices there's lentils in there. It's a really great way to get some plant-based protein in there also. Seeds are great. I like to call them small but very mighty, right? They have such a magnificent micronutrient profile, and they're so easy to sprinkle onto food, onto breakfast, onto all natural peanut butter and whole wheat toast. They're great, and also nuts. And when we're thinking about fiber, if you're at the grocery store, and this happens all the time. I mean, you go to the bread section, there's like 20 different breads to pick from. You're like, I don't know which one to pick, or the pastas, the whole grains, things like that. I want you to flip it over and I want you to look at the ingredient list And when you're comparing and you're wondering which ones to get the one with more fiber. A really great way to make a good choice when you're looking which one has the more fiber. So again, what's really simple about, adding fiber to your diet, it's about adding whole foods, which is amazing, right? It's easy, you go to the grocery store and you look for those whole foods. Legumes are great. You can buy them dry or canned. If they're canned, make sure you rinse them. They're low sodium. Also buy them dry and soak them. And then whole grains, right? There's so many different kinds of whole grains available, things like bulgur and quinoa. And again, adding those different kinds of fibers is really good for your gut. Next one is hydration. So like I mentioned, hydration or thirst dulls as you get wiser, that sensation, right? So you want to make sure that, especially as you're increasing your fiber, you're increasing your whole foods, then you also increase your water, right? Because it's going to help things move along easily. I think one of the most common questions I used to get, not so much, it's probably not trending online as much, but I used to get like, is it okay to drink water while I eat food? Yes, right? This question was very popular for a while. I used to get it all the time. But yes, it is. You want to make sure that you're sipping water throughout the day and preventing that dehydration. And, whatever bottle you like, just find something. Probiotics and fermented foods. So probiotics and fermented foods are very cool. So they are live beneficial bacteria that are really good for your gut microbiome. So these come in foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha. If you've never heard of any of these before, I encourage you to try some of them, right? Like you can make actually your own kimchi and kombucha, but you can just get them at the grocery store and try them out. So these are great, right? They boost your immune system. They help with constipation. If you're struggling with bloating, they can often be really helpful and help rebalance. If you're ever on an antibiotic, it's always great to go in after with some probiotics. So probiotics, I want you to think about those as the seeds, and then when you think of those like you're planting seeds in your gut, I want you to think as prebiotics now that we're going to talk about are like adding water and fertilizer to them. So these are food for that good bacteria in your gut, which is great. So these comes like with foods like onion, garlic, asparagus, chickpeas, lentils, oats. So you might notice sometimes if you're not regularly consuming these foods, you get a little gassy. But that's actually normal, and that's good. That means your fermentation is happening, right? And no worries, if you increase gradually, your body does adjust to it, but that's actually good. You'd be like, oh, something's happening. Yeah, and then how much fiber do you need? So it is personalized, but usually 25 to 30 grams. So again, like nice ways to start thinking about that, looking at the back of labels of food, I always say like with food items, like 3 to 4 at least of grams is good. It really depends on the food, but you always want kind of that minimum if you're looking for a food. And the more color, the more variety, the bigger the party, the bigger the potluck in your gut. So these are really great. And you can also combine probiotics with prebiotics. So you could do like a yogurt with banana or oats. So that's a really nice way to combine them and get both of those benefits at the same time. So another really great way to get a good amount of fiber and get your microbiome what it needs is to aim for 30 different plants a week. You might be thinking, Serena, that sounds like a lot. So it may sound like a lot, but when you break things down, it really isn't. But when we're thinking about 30 different plants, we're really looking again for that diversity, right? That diversity is what is so beneficial for our gut microbiome. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've seen clients with digestive health issues, concerns, and they're eating like the same 8-ish plants a week. And I'm like, you know what, let's increase that. And they see such an improvement. And it's really nice too, because it's a non-restrictive way to improve your health by adding more plants. And what do we consider plants? So fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and whole grains. So like whole oats, bulgur, quinoa, whole. So, like think about if you were to have like yogurt, oatmeal with, or oats with some seeds and fruits, you'd easily hit like 5 right there. So this is a really fun challenge, and it's always nice to see kind of where you start, right? Before you kind of aim for something like 30, it's like, oh, maybe I'm getting like 8 or 10. So, I'm going to aim for 13. And it's like, oh, what am I going to get at the grocery store? So it's a really nice way to add that. So again, it really supports not only your digestive health, but helps with antioxidants, blood sugar balance, inflammation, all those goodness. So it's a really nice way and just really helps people reduce those processed foods. I always like to say, as you add more healthful foods, it naturally kind of just crowds out those less healthful foods. So medications, right? So we just talked about briefly that, yeah, medications, like long-term use of them can have an impact, right? Like ibuprofen, aspirin, those can impact the stomach lining. Also things like antidepressants, supplements, iron is really known for this, also causing constipation. And then long-term use of PPIs or proton pump inhibitors for reflux can also to decrease the stomach acid too much, and then actually we're not able to absorb some nutrients, like specifically like B12. So like I mentioned, pharmacist, your doctor is great, right? Next time you're at the grocery store, if you're having issues, or maybe you just want to check, hey, I've been taking this medication, like anything I should be worried about, or I should know about the side effects, I would say knowledge is power. So what are some other things that we can do? So we really focus on the dietary aspect, medications, things that we can do. There's other things that we can do for that holistic well-being that we're going to dive into now. I say a moving gut is a happy gut. So let's move our body, right? This is something that's going to be so good for actual, bowel movements, right? If you're struggling with constipation. Also too, I like to call muscle mass your RSP. But as dietitians, we call it your RSP, right? As you get wiser, it becomes a little bit more challenging to build muscle and maintain it, right? So you want to make sure that you invest well in your RSP and your muscle mass, and you maintain it, right? By doing things like exercising, weight training, and things like that. And you don't want to do any what I call like large withdrawals. Remember that it's like, if you're you get very sick and you can't move around for a while, or very inactive, right? Those can decrease your muscle mass. So we want to be mindful. And, anything counts, right? Going for a walk, right? Especially when it's beautiful out, gardening, some yoga, whatever you like to do is great. And you want to aim for about 150 minutes a week. Now, wherever you're starting, I always like to say 1% better a day. Just 1%. If you're not exercising, no problem. Start with 1 minute. What do you want to do for 1 minute? Right? And slowly increase like that, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just 1%. And then when you get to 20 minutes, great, maintain that for a while, and then keep going till you get to that goal. And it's not just the physical, also the mental aspects of it, that feels really good. Moving, the connection that happens with that, if you do it with others or your body. And yeah, also too, it really helps lower your blood sugar. I had a client, blood sugar was creeping up, and we were being proactive. I'm like, let's get a 24-hour glucose monitor. And I was saying before, I was like, go for a walk after dinner, go for a walk. She's like, oh my golly, Serena. She's like, I can't believe how much your blood sugar goes down when I go for a walk. Very short walk too. Like, we're not talking 15, 20 minutes, even just a 10-minute walk. So a moving gut is a happy gut. Yeah, and jump on the mocktail trend. Alcohol can be really irritating, right, for the gut. Let's say alcohol, once you consume it, your body is hustling to try and get rid of it right away. So, yeah, if you drink, do so in moderation. And also too, I mean, there's so many great like non-alcoholic beers. I just had this great like mango one not too long ago. It was really nice. So, yeah, just looking for those non-alcoholic drinks, and If you don't smoke, don't start in your golden years, right? Again, smoking can disrupt that gut, not ideal either. So if you do smoke, looking to reduce or quit that for your gut and overall health. Sleep. So sleep is so important. I think people talk about it all the time. And, we want to make sure that we do stay on a little bit of a routine, right? Your body loves routine, like the circadian rhythm, like going to sleep when it's night and waking when it's day, really does wonders for your body. So eating meals too, roughly like the same time is very beneficial, right? Just getting that body rhythm. What works for you, what works for your body and your lifestyle. I always say skip the heavy late meal. Typically, nothing really that good is eaten after 10 o'clock. I've yet to meet someone who snacks on cucumbers and carrots and hummus at that time. And maybe you're that person. Yeah, and just have like a really nice winding down routine, whatever that looks like. I know sometimes, the evenings it's fun, you're doing things, but like even myself, like I put a little alarm on my phone, like, oh, hey, it's wind down time. So I'm like, oh, okay. And stress. I think we've all experienced like not only the gut feeling, but being stressed or being overwhelmed or something, and feeling that stress. And it can be a big contributor to things like ulcers, IBS, indigestion. So do whatever you need to do to stress less, which sounds easier said than done. But I think sometimes people think it takes big moments to de-stress, but sometimes it really just takes a small moment, taking a deep breath, and either a moment of gratitude or whatever you need for you. And also too, be in a relaxed state of mind when you're eating. Um, there's definitely a change when you are in high stress and you are eating a meal, right? When you're relaxed, it's a very different experience, right? And that's not only physically, but also mentally. I always tell people it's important to have a good mindset with food and when you're eating. Like it's hard to, you know, digest well when you're like eating something. You're like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this or that. It's like enjoy what you eat, be mindful. And oral health. This plays a huge role again in our overall health. So making sure that if you wear dentures, that they're well fitted. If you need to steam foods, have some of those softer foods, and making sure that you regularly, clean your teeth, get checkups, things like that, and just being mindful when you're eating to help slow that intake down and help that digestion. So as we wind down from our time together, let's talk about some key takeaways. So gut health truly is whole person, whole body health. It impacts everything from our mood, our mental health, our immune system, our heart health, inflammation, risk for disease. So when we're focusing on our digestive health and our gut health, we really are focusing on our whole health. Now, as we mentioned too, whole foods are a great way to get that fiber in, right? Fiber is key for your gut. It's food. So we want to make sure that we aim for that variety, making sure that we're looking for foods with a lot of fiber in them. And lastly, lifestyle plays a big impact, right? And everything is connected. So sleep, body movement, oral health. So keeping that in mind so that you're really looking at that holistic lens. So I promised you that we would be back here for the end of the presentation. What is the one thing you can do today to have better digestive health? We talked about so many different ways to improve your digestive health. And I hope that there's one that maybe you wrote a bunch down. You're like, oh, these are all great tips. But I hope that there's one that you can start integrating right now. So great. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. Again, I'm Serena Benali, registered dietitian. And yeah, this is brought to you by the Canadian Digestive Health Foundation. Thank you so much.